I've heard it for years. I know you have as well. If you're using a tripod, always turn off in-body image stabilization or you'll end up with soft photos. But is that actually true? It's a question that I get asked all the time during my workshops. Does leaving IBIS on really hurt image sharpness when your camera is locked down on a tripod? And honestly, I don't 100% know the correct answer. So I decided to finally test this for myself side by side, same settings, same scene, 3 different sensor sizes, a crop sensor camera, a full frame camera, and even a medium format camera, all with IBIS on and IBIS off. And in this video, I'll walk you through what I found, what surprised me, and whether or not you should change this setting in your own landscape photography when using a tripod. Because let's face it, we have all accidentally forgot to turn off IBIS when using a tripod at least once. I know I certainly have numerous times. So what I decided to do to test this out is I took the camera, put it on a tripod, and put it near the fire pit in my backyard. And to take the results a step further, because I've done these types of analysis before, and sometimes it's hard to compare results when you're trying to zoom in on details of, say, the bark of a tree, or the details of a leaf, or the side of a mountain. So I decided to print off a eye exam chart, just like this, and place this in the scene to give us something to really zoom in on to see, because I find that you can see the details of the edges of these letters, and it'll make it easier to compare results whether or not we can see a substantial difference between the images with IBIS on and the images with IBIS off. So I did that with a Fuji GFX 100S, which is a high resolution medium format camera. Then I did it with a Nikon Z8, which is a full frame camera. And I also did it with the Fuji X-T5 that I'm filming on right now, which is a crop sensor camera. So crop sensor, full frame, medium format to compare these results. Now, real quick, I do just want to mention IBIS, or in-body image stabilization, is designed to help you get sharper shots by physically shifting the sensor to counteract camera shake. It's incredibly useful when you're shooting handheld, especially at slower shutter speeds. But when your camera is locked down on a tripod and there's no movement to correct, that stabilization system can sometimes overcorrect or hunt for shake that doesn't even exist. Or so this is what we have been told for many years. And the result, it may actually introduce micro vibrations that make your image softer, not sharper. Some brands like Sony and Canon, they try to detect tripod use and automatically disable IBIS, but it's not always consistent. And Nikon cameras like the Z8 here, leave it on by default, so unless you turn it off manually, it stays active. And that's what we're going to test in this video. Does leaving IBIS on when you're using a tripod actually affect image sharpness? So let's find out. So as you can see right here, this is the fire pit in my backyard. This image right here on the left, this is the image that has in-body image stabilization or IBIS turned off. The image on the right is IBIS turned on, and this is with the Fuji X-T5, which is a crop sensor camera. Now, some of the rumors, and I'm sure you've heard these rumors before too, that it affects different cameras in different ways. So I've always heard that the slower the shutter speed you use on a tripod, the softer it will make your photo. So if you do a shutter speed of a second, that's gonna make your photo even more soft. So I wanted to test that out. I also heard that the bigger sensor camera you use, the more this will impact it. So that's why I wanted to use a crop sensor camera, a full frame camera, and a medium format camera. And then the third rumor I always heard is that the higher the megapixel count is of the sensor, the more this will impact. So this right here, the medium format, this is a 102 megapixel and extremely high resolution medium format sensor. So in theory, based off of all the rumors, the Fuji GFX 100S should be the one that is impacted the most. So in the Fuji X-T5 that I'm filming on right now, which is a crop sensor camera, theoretically should be the one that is impacted the least. So let's find out. So here we go. This image right here, like I mentioned, no IBIS. This is with IBIS with the Fuji X-T5. We're at 1/8 of a second, zoomed in at 20 millimeters. Let's zoom in at both of these right here. And as you can see, I personally don't see, I've already looked at these results and I've really tried to find a difference, and I cannot see a difference in either of these. This is at 1/8 of a second, which is definitely, you're nearing that edge of where you can actually hand hold it, but it's not too terribly long. So I wanted to take it a step further. So let's change this here. Let's drag this image up here. And these images here, this is at 1 second, an exposure of 1 second, which that's a shutter speed way too slow to handhold. So if we are gonna see any issue here or any differences between these two, we should be able to see it here. But as you can see, once again, I don't see any difference between these photographs whatsoever. And just to reiterate, this image right here is with no IBIS, and this right here is with IBIS. So it's probably fair to say the Fuji X-T5, the crop sensor camera, I did not see any difference at all with IBIS on and with IBIS off, which was a little bit surprising. So now let's move on to the Fuji GFX 100S, which is the medium format, 102 megapixel, high resolution camera. So let's come up here, select this, let me zoom back out. Actually, let's put this one here. And then this is the image without the image stabilization. So let's zoom into these. This is no image stabilization, and this is with image stabilization at 1/6 of a second. And I'll just kind of give you a second to look at these results. And honestly, I've really tried to see some kind of difference here, and I can't see any difference here either. These look exactly the same in my opinion. Even if we zoom out, let's just pick a different area, maybe the arm of the chair. And even that right there looks very much the same. Let's go up here and let's change this to a longer shutter speed. This is actually now 1.3 seconds on each of these. This right here is with IBIS on. This right here is with IBIS off. And once again, this is with the medium format, the larger sensor, high megapixel camera. And looking at these results, once again, I can't see any difference between these photographs. And I'm really doing a lot of pixel peeping. If you look up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see how far we're actually zoomed in on this image. Very far into the photograph. So I think it's safe to say that the Fuji GFX 100S medium format camera, I didn't see any difference with IBIS on or IBIS off when on a tripod either. So now the final test, let's check out the Nikon Z8, which is the camera that I use. This is my main camera for still work. And I use it constantly. I absolutely love the camera. I'm a big fan, and I was very curious to see these results here. So let's put this here. This is going to be the image without IBIS. This is going to be the image with IBIS right here. Slightly different scene because I wanted to just change things up a little bit. And let's zoom in here. And once again, you can see how far we're zoomed in. We're zoomed in very far. Let's zoom in even more to where the eye chart pretty much consumes the entire screen. Let me try and make these even. That looks pretty even right there. So the image on the left is with no IBIS. The image on the right is with IBIS, both on a tripod at a 1/2 second shutter speed. And once again, I really don't see any difference in these photographs at all either. Let's slow the shutter speed down just a little bit more to see if we can see any kind of a change here. So this is going to be the image that has the IBIS on, and then this is going to be the image that has the IBIS off. So no IBIS, with IBIS at a 2-second shutter speed, which is far too long that any human in the world can handhold. 2 seconds, we should be able to see some kind of a difference here. But once again, I see nothing. I see absolutely no change in either of these. Let's zoom all the way out and just find a different area to zoom in on. Maybe the leg of this chair here. Let's zoom in even more to a point like that. Oops, I'm trying to make these even, which is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. That looks pretty good there. And I I cannot see any difference. And I'm really doing a lot of pixel peeping. I mean, look how far we're zoomed in here. So when you look at the photograph, like a normal person does like this, you're definitely not gonna see any kind of a difference. We're zooming in on an eye chart, which obviously you're never gonna be photographing an eye chart in the great outdoors. So we're really trying to see some kind of a change. And honestly, I just could not see it. So at least from my experience testing it on 3 different cameras, 3 different sensor sizes with very slow shutter speed, I saw no difference at all. So for me moving forward, I'm not gonna really worry too much about turning IBIS off when I'm using a tripod. I'm just gonna probably just leave it on all the time because I do not see any change at all in any of these results. And I was pretty surprised by that because I have heard this rumor, this myth for years. And I can't tell you how many times where I've been photographing on a tripod and then I'll realize like, oh my God, I forgot to turn off IBIS. And then kind of sweat it a little bit. Like, I hope I don't go home and I see these photos being soft. But it turns out that it really doesn't affect it as much as we've been told over the years. So I found that to be very interesting. I do hope you enjoyed this week's video. I know I certainly enjoyed filming it and just kind of going through this exercise. And if you would like to check it out for yourself, this is a very easy exercise to go through in your backyard. Just print out an eye chart and just run a couple tests and you might be surprised at the results that you find. If you have any questions about anything I covered in this week's video, please leave them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to get back in touch with you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this week's video, of course, if you could, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, and as always, I really do appreciate you carving out a little bit of time to spend it with me here today, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye.